When you think of the greatest naval empires in history, what comes to mind? The Romans, Vikings, the Spanish Armada. What if I told you that's only half the story, and the most powerful naval force was completely erased from textbooks? For over 1,000 years, African kingdoms controlled the most profitable trade routes on Earth, until European ships arrived and systematically destroyed everything. By the end of this video, you'll see why Europeans had to literally burn African fleets to take control of the Indian Ocean, and why this history was almost lost forever. Our story kicks off in the Horn of Africa, in what is now modern-day Ethiopia and Eritrea. This was the home of the mighty kingdom of Aksum from the 1st to the 7th centuries CE. Aksum was a global powerhouse, so influential that a Persian writer of the time ranked it among the 4 greatest powers in the world, right alongside Rome, Persia, and China, and the key to its incredible power: its mastery of the sea. Aksum's genius was its control over the port of Adulis on the Red Sea. Adulis wasn't just a city, it was the gateway to the world. This single port was the command center for a trade network that stretched from the Roman Empire to the shores of India. Aksum exported gold, ivory, and emeralds, while importing luxuries like silk and spices. But this wasn't just about peaceful commerce. The Aksumite kings were naval commanders. Inscriptions from around 200 AD describe a king using a powerful fleet to project power across the Red Sea, conquering coastal territories in Yemen and the Arabian Peninsula. This was about empire. Their navy enforced their will, demanding tribute and ensuring that Aksum controlled the flow of wealth through this critical maritime choke point. How did they do it? While no Aksumite ships have been found, historical accounts from the era and regional boat-building traditions suggest their vessels were built using a sewn-boat technique. Instead of iron nails, planks were stitched together with ropes and complex knots. This method may have allowed for cheaper, faster production, helping them build a large and formidable fleet that cemented their status as the undisputed naval authority in the Red Sea. This was an African empire that didn't just trade with the world, it projected its power across it. But here's what's incredible. While Aksum dominated the Red Sea for 500 years, something even more powerful was emerging 3,000 kilometers down the African coast. What I'm about to show you will blow your mind. A network of African cities that became so wealthy they made Venice look poor, and their secret weapon: they turned the entire Indian Ocean into their personal highway. As Aksum's power faded around the 7th century, another even more widespread maritime culture was rising further south. Along a 3,000-kilometer stretch of the East African coast from Somalia to Mozambique, a new civilization was born from the sea: the Swahili Coast. This wasn't one single empire, but a network of dozens of sophisticated independent city-states whose names still echo with power: Mombasa, Zanzibar, and the magnificent Kilwa. For centuries, these city-states were a dynamic and vital hub in the Indian Ocean's economy. They were master seafarers and shipbuilders who expertly harnessed the predictable monsoon winds that blew toward India and Arabia in one season, and then reversed course, allowing for safe and reliable round-trip voyages each year. The vessel that made it all possible was the iconic Diu. These ships, with their characteristic triangular lateen sails, were perfectly adapted for the Indian Ocean. While construction varied, many were sewn boats, built with wooden planks stitched together with natural fibers like coir, making them flexible and resilient for long-distance journeys. Swahili sailors commanded these dhows, turning their cities into bustling cosmopolitan centers of commerce. At the heart of this network was the Sultanate of Kilwa, off the coast of modern-day Tanzania. Between the 13th and 15th centuries, Kilwa became one of the wealthiest cities in the world. Its power came from its strategic location, which allowed it to control the flow of gold from the great mines of the interior, including those of the Kingdom of Zimbabwe. This gold trade made Kilwa immensely rich. As the great Moroccan traveller Ibn Battuta wrote when he visited around 1331, Kilwa was one of the finest and most beautifully built towns. The wealth was staggering. In Kilwa's markets, African gold and ivory were traded for Chinese porcelain, Indian silks, and Persian perfumes. The ruins of the city today, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, still show off this golden age. The remains of grand palaces and the Great Mosque of Kilwa, once one of the largest in sub-Saharan Africa, showcase a prosperity funded entirely by their command of ocean trade. For 800 years, this system of African maritime dominance worked perfectly. Gold, ivory, and spices flowed like rivers across the Indian Ocean, all controlled by black sailors and traders. But then European cannons appeared on the horizon, and everything changed forever. What happened next wasn't discovery. It was systematic destruction on a scale that will shock you. Section 3. The inevitable collision, the arrival of new powers. The Portuguese didn't come to trade, they came to conquer. And their first target, the richest city in the world at the time. I'm talking about a place so wealthy that when Ibn Battuta visited, he called it one of the finest cities in the world. The Portuguese destroyed it in 1505, and here's exactly how they did it. For centuries, the Indian Ocean was a space of multicultural exchange where the commercial savvy of Swahili, Arab, Persian, and Indian merchants created a thriving system. It was a network largely built on reciprocal trade, though it was not without its darker side, including a long-standing slave trade. But in the late 15th century, a new kind of ship appeared on the horizon, one that sailed not for commerce, but for conquest. The arrival of Portuguese caravels, armed with heavy cannons, marked a violent and irreversible turning point. This wasn't a discovery. It was a brutal disruption of a well-established world. Their strategy was ruthless. They saw the wealthy merchant cities of the Swahili Coast as prizes to be taken. In 1505, the Portuguese attacked and looted Kilwa, the jewel of the coast, ending its reign as a dominant power. They moved up the coast, bombarding and sacking other cities like Mombasa, imposing heavy taxes and dismantling the local systems of power. The Swahili trade dhows, designed for carrying cargo, were outmatched by European ships built as floating fortresses. The Swahili city-states fought back fiercely, but the sustained aggression weakened the economic foundations of the coast. To secure their dominance over the entire ocean, the Portuguese had to defeat a coalition of established powers. The decisive naval Battle of Diu in 1509, fought off the coast of India, saw a Portuguese fleet defeat a combined force from Egypt, the Sultanate of Gujarat, and their allies. This victory was critical for Portugal's strategy of controlling the entire Indian Ocean. This clash was more than military. It was a collision of worldviews. The established Indian Ocean system was a complex web of seasonal trade and cultural exchange. The new European model was one of monopolistic control, enforced by naval firepower. The arrival of the Portuguese didn't just lead to the decline of the Swahili city-states. It shattered the world they had helped build and master. This incredible history of naval power is a critical piece of our shared global story, but so much of it still remains hidden, buried in overlooked texts and yet to be excavated ruins. If you believe these are stories that need to be told, help us bring them to light by hitting the like button and subscribing. Let us know in the comments which other forgotten histories you want to see us cover next. By reclaiming these narratives, we get a much truer picture of our world. The systematic destruction of Africa's maritime empires wasn't just about gold and spices. It was about erasing 1,000 years of black excellence from human memory. But here's what's beautiful. The evidence is still there. In the ruins of Kilwa and Mombasa, in the stories passed down through generations, in the DNA of every African who carries the spirit of these ancient mariners. These weren't just traders, they were the architects of the first truly global economy, connecting Africa to Asia, Arabia, and beyond through courage, innovation, and sheer maritime genius. The Portuguese didn't just destroy ships that day in 1505. They tried to destroy a legacy, but they failed, because stories like this live forever.